Well, I know one thing for sure. If next year's class comes in and I lose a game, I should be fired because we didn't miss a shot. And as you can see, they try to put some things together. And Marcus Bingham, he is a 6'10", 6'11" guy with long reach, kind of like a Jaren Jackson. Probably shoots the ball as good as any big guy we've had. He's grown 8 inches in the last couple of years, so he's actually has guard skills where he can handle the ball, dribble the ball. He's gained some All-State honors, and yet there's a guy that's just kind of in the making. If you look at him on potential, you might say he's the best player potentially because he has great potential. He's got to gain 30 pounds. He's got to do some things, but the kid has very well coached in high school, and he has great, I think, skills to develop into something special. Gabe Brown is the guy hardest for maybe you guys to know much about. He was a first-team All-Stater, but he didn't play in the summer. He had injured, and he averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks, and shot 50% from the field and 41 from the three. I think he's kind of a Morris Peterson type player. He's left-handed. He too has grown a lot in the last couple of years. So he has pretty good guard skills, pretty good athletic ability. Every year we seem to do something different. We had the Knicks era, and the fact that our own player right now, and Nick Ward, had to lose a lot of weight. We got a couple guys that got to gain some weight. So he's one of them. He grew from 6'3" to 6'7" in 1 year, and I think still growing after I saw him a couple weeks ago. We think Gabe, even though he missed with a little slight knee injury most of the summer, he's got a chance to be one of the more versatile guys. And Aaron Henry, a guy we got in on a little late, won a state championship at one of the best schools in the state of Indiana, Ben Davis. Averaged 14 points, 6.5 rebounds, but almost 4 assists. So he's a player that we think is multi-skilled, can do a lot of different things. He shot 42% from the three, and yet I think some of that is selective shooting. In other words, he doesn't take a lot of threes. He doesn't force a lot of shot. But he's a winner that does the little things. And the word winner is how his coach at Ben Davis, who's had a lot of players over the years, talked about him, and I'd have to agree. Thomas Kithier, a guy that's been committed to us for a couple years, averaged 21 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. Here in second-team All-State honors a year ago. He was the first member of this class. And what we look at Thomas as is a 6'8", 225-pounder that every time we see him, we think he's improved some. The game's important to him. He's a good student. He's a guy that can shoot the ball up to 15, 16 feet, maybe longer. Very multi-skilled, kind of, I guess kind of like, what's his name that we had a couple years ago? Sitting here with a mental block. But some of the 6'8" kids we've had that can do a lot of something and yet not maybe overly talented as far as athleticism and things like that. But we think another good addition to this class. And in Foster Lawyer from Clarkston, already a 3-time All-State honoree. Who is he like? I guess he's got a little Scott Skiles in him. He's got a little Drew Neitzel in him. He's got a little Cassius Winston in him. He can do a lot of things. Averaged 25 points, 6.5 assists, 4 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and missed a free throw. I think he missed 1 in 2015 and 2 in 2016, and maybe a couple last year. He shot 95.7% from the free throw line. So he doesn't miss many free throws. He shot very well from range. He's growing a little bit. He's 6 foot now. He made 119 consecutive free throws, Michigan's longest streak, and it was the second longest in the nation. Won a state title last year, and was 71-5 in 3 years of high school. So I think each one of them brings something different, and each one of them gives us something that I think will blend in with what we have. And in Foster, it'll be start out a great backup to Cash, and I think when you look at Henry and Brown, they're great athletes at that 6'7", 6'6", 6'8" height. And then with Bingham, the 6'10" guy, 6'11" guy who has incredible potential as long as he keeps getting bigger and stronger. So the guy I was trying to forget about was Matt Costello, and that's kind of how I look at Kithier. So, any questions on the recruits?
Tom, I realize, quite frankly, you don't care about guys' attention when they get here. It's what they've done after they leave, and that's just truthful. But are you shocked at how undervalued Lawyer is?
Yeah, no, the certain programs don't like small guards, and certain people like certain things, and as you say, I don't really care. Then he committed to us pretty early also, so that negates some of the recruiting attention you get. Some of these kids wait until the last second. I just know this, as a student, as a player, and back to the Judd Heathcote theory, as a coach's son, since Dad coached in the NBA and college, I feel very fortunate what we got, and I wouldn't trade him.
Tom, 4 guys from Michigan in this class. I don't think you've ever done that before. What have you seen happen with the talent level in the state in recent years, and what does that kind of do for your program?
The talent level in the state is getting better and better as long as we can keep them here, from some of the prep schools and all that. But the talent level in this state has definitely improved. They say it's cyclical, and, Indiana's been through that, Ohio's been through that, Illinois has been through that. I'm just happy that right now our state in the last class or two and the next classes has got some very good players. So my theory's been if I can put a fence around the state, that's very, very, very important. It hasn't changed since I got here. The only thing that changes is the availability of those kind of players.
On Thomas, you took that commitment so early, and what did you see back then? And then also, is that something that you plan to continue to do, is taking commitments that early, especially from bigs?
Well, you bring up a really good point, and the truth of the matter is that we're going through a stage where we're losing guys, and you want to look at, I think what's important to look at when is getting you got to have some talented kids, and they could be one and done, two are done. But we built this program on having some kids that are 3- and 4-year players. And we looked at Thomas as potentially that. Now, once they come, we looked at Didi as a 3-year player, and he was gone in a year. So you never know, but, that was kind of the theory. A kid who wanted to be here, a kid who grew up wanting to be here, a kid with size. Maybe wasn't recruited by the world, but I think we've learned a valuable lesson in football. When you look at some of those receivers and what we've done, it's not always the ranking. It's more where they want to be and what they want to do. So, I think some of the theory behind it was I want to get a guy that wants to be here. I want to get a guy that I think is going to be here for a while. And a while doesn't mean 4 years anymore, unfortunately, but in most cases it doesn't mean 1 year either. And I think that's what Thomas gave to us. I think we gave something to him. Match made in heaven.
Tom, Gabe Brown had the injury over the summer that kind of limited him. I'm wondering how much where he's at this point, how much you kind of keep an eye on that this winter
I
and
kept
see
an
how
eye
he's
on
kind
it
of
a
progressing?
lot, and we went and visited him in early September. He was just coming back, able to start shooting. Now he's full go, and just saw a video on him the other day and that he sent that this kid has grown too. I'm not sure he's not 6'8". I've been very impressed with Gabe Brown. I think he's, again, when you're injured or when you're, depending on how your team is done or what AAU team you're on, some get more exposure than they should, some get less exposure than they should. But we really like Gabe. We think he's a guy that has very, very good versatility. I mean, put on the floor, can shoot a three, can take it to the hole, and dunk on people, and he's got length. So all we got to do is build up the strength and then keep improving in the other areas. So, the injury doesn't seem to be anything that's going to be a threat in his career in any way. It just kept him out of the summer.
Hey, Tom, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of, I think for what it's worth, a lot of people are ranking this class in the national top 5, if not the top 2. Meanwhile, if I'm not mistaken, of these 5 commitments, it's not like there was any knockdown, drag out recruiting wars to get them. I don't want to say it was easy this time, but maybe less resistance. I don't want to say resistance either, but you didn't really have to knock down, drag out to get some of these guys. Is that kind of strange for you to recruit one that's a class that's this deep and regarded that way by people, whether you're
Well, I think, Jimmy, half the reason, sometimes you get ranked higher through numbers. I don't know where this class will end up, but I know where it'll end up for me. It'll be, the one we wanted. And so the numbers sometimes give you, like last year, I don't know what we're ranked. We had 2 very good players, but we only had 2. If you have 4, that's one thing. If you have 5, that kind of works to your favor as far as the rankings. The knockdown things, we had a couple kids in state that were dying to be here. That's what happens when you grow up in a state and you've won. Maybe we're reaping a few benefits from the 20 straight years of getting in the tournament. Most of these kids grew up with us on their mind, and that's helped us some. And then the other thing is, I think we're being a little more picky and choosy as far as who we recruit, who we're recruiting against, trying to figure out. As I said, it's if you look at it here, I think, Coach D and I talked about it over the years. You win with people that want to be here. You don't win with rankings. You win with performance. And I think I had a year or 2 where I got caught up and, the higher the recruiting class sometimes. I've gotten lucky lately that there's been some high classes with some incredible kids. But right now, every day is a war for us in recruiting. Trust me on that. But we have been a little more selective. And we've been a little more aggressive in not letting things drag out where some of the problems always occur.
Follow up to that on Bingham, if I'm not mistaken, he kind of made a meteoric rise on your radar a little bit. Can you go over that a little bit about how much were you aware of him beforehand, and was it something that all of a sudden, that guy is our type of guy?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it happened kind of quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, his coach, TJ, I think has done a great job with him, and he transferred schools early in his career, and I think there were academics, wasn't as much a priority as they've become. And then he played pretty well on his AAU team. But I'd have to say what really excited us is his high school coach bringing him up and getting a chance to know him a little bit, and then watching the skill level and size. So if he's got skill and size, then it's our job to make him stronger, tougher, more aggressive. But I like my chances helping a kid improve in those areas than helping him grow 7 inches, because I can't do that, or helping him, get his shot. We can help him, but if you can't shoot by your senior year of high school, it's hard to improve enough to be really good at it. He's a very good shooter. He's got that art down. It's going to come down to his strength, his desire, his work ethic, and I'm not sure those were where he wanted them early in his career. But I think the help of his coach, his mother, and everything, it's really increased and improved. And I think getting here with a guy like Xavier, who's from the same area, will help him, because Xavier changed his body a lot the other way, and Xavier also changed his work ethic and everything, and he's becoming a really good player.
Gabe got really emotional when he committed because of what it meant with the loss of his father and everything else. For you, when you see guys, you've had some recruits that almost act like you're lucky to get them. When you see guys, he talked about, it's a dream, I'm so lucky to play for a Hall of Famer. When you see that kind of appreciation, and really the whole class is like that, is that extra special to you?
Yeah, and it will be up until the middle of end of next June. And it's back to dog eat dog, as I always say. But, it was important to him. And losing his family like he did, and having his brother there, I think it was important that he stayed somewhat close to home. And, as I said, Gabe's a guy that we've grown on. Mike Garland knew him well. He's from his neck of the woods. I went to the same school, and, Mike knows everybody's aunt and uncles and aunts, and everybody talks so highly of this kid and what his potential is. So I'd say, in some ways, this class is a little bit more on potential than an actual performance. If you look at them as a group, Gabe didn't play this summer. Marcus grew 6-7 inches and all that, different things like that. But it wasn't just a guess either. It's not just a hunch. It's not just a maybe this will happen, but probably a little more on potential than normally we recruit.
Thomas and Foster get to play together this year now. Is that something that's exciting for you?
I mean, it is. I mean, they played together in the summer. I don't see that as a monumental making that kind of difference. But, they've known each other. I mean, I think what's great here is guys kind of welcome each other pretty well here. And so these will be two guys that have played together, but they've been up here a lot together over the last 2 and 3 years. They know our other guys just about as well. I don't know if Foster will be throwing him any real lobs. He's not that kind of player. So everything else will be, how they do. But it'll be good. It's always good when the better you get to know somebody. But I don't know if it'll be overly significant.
You guys will definitely be reloading up front after potentially losing so many bigs this year. I mean, was that kind of going through your mind when you were recruiting this class?
Yeah, and there's so many things you don't know, I mean, who knows anymore? We were a little shell-shocked and some of the things that happen, I don't know who will be coming and going, I'm sure Miles will probably stay another year, and but I don't really know everybody coming and going, but you do have to be more prepared than we were that year last year, Now, some of it, when you get two bigs hurt the first week, but some of it was, losing Didi and not being prepared for that. So we're trying to be a little more prepared in some ways so we're not left with, nothing. And that's what we were a year ago.
That's kind of where I was going to go with this. In terms of a numbers game right now, with you got the 5, how do you approach the rest of this recruiting cycle with so much unknowns?
Well, that's the life I got to live now. I mean, that's the way it is. And, I don't know who will be here and who won't be here. I mean, I have a pretty good feel. I don't think there's any, we've done a better job of maybe staying on top of it. Maybe the DD thing we didn't stay on top of as well. That'd be my fault, I guess. But there's surprises every once in a while, and so we've learned to learn from what we do and try to handle those things a little better now. And I think in general, we feel pretty comfortable where we're at. It's a big year next year. Every year is a big year if you're here. And so we just got to find guys that fit in with other guys and realize that you're recruiting star players. You have to recruit some role players. You have to recruit some players that are in that echelon to be 1 or 2 and done, and you have to try to recruit some that you think will be here 3-4 years. And sometimes you think they're going to be and they're not, and sometimes you think they're not, and shazam, look what happened. They're around a little longer than you thought.
Tom, outside of this class, looking forward in recruiting, you've talked about you sleep well at night, but with the FBI probe and that's still going on, do you see that as helping Michigan State? Because you've certainly lost some guys that potentially could have been lost for under-the-table things that you wouldn't participate in. Do you think that helps Michigan State?
Ando, I don't even know anymore. I guess if I had to tell you the truth, and some of you guys have been around me for a long time, I went through the stage 15, 20 years ago, being angry about everything, and being upset and mad about everything, and I knew more than most people knew then, and things were going on or not going on, But then I got to the point where I got a little more at peace with myself, and I'm going to recruit who I want to recruit, and I'm going to work my tail off, and if somebody else gets them one way or another, either they beat us out, which has happened many, many a times, or they beat us out in other ways, I just got to be man enough to move on and do what I got to do. I don't think this is an epidemic, as I've said before. I don't think, everybody's, going underground. What I do think, personally, is we got too many people in the middle of things. And I don't see where that's good for kids any way, shape, or form. That's the only thing I'd like to correct. And I don't know if it's ever going to be easy here, because it's not, certain schools that the school recruits to itself. We do have as nice a facility as anybody in the country, and they've gotten even nicer. We do have some great guys here. I think I got a good coaching staff. So we're going to get players every year. And this probe and what happens, I'll probably know more in a couple months when we find out what really happens and what really is. I didn't even read all the transcripts of the stuff, because I'm trying to say, I don't care. I care about our profession, but I don't care individually for me. I'm going to try to recruit the kids that I want, that want to be here. And it's worked out for the most part for many years, and I'm hoping it'll continue.
On the second part of that, do you think that all of this can help or could help facilitate any kind of power shift back to the high school level as opposed to the recruiting via summer ball primarily?
I hope so, because I think that, we're educators, and it should be in the school systems. But the school system's got to change too some, I mean, we've hired so many people outside the systems, but there needs to be accountability in everything we do. And I think one way to have accountability, if it is more in the school systems, I think most coaches would prefer that. That's not always against the AAU thing. It's against some accountability. What is the accountability? What do you have to do to become a coach? Do you have a boss? I always give you guys a hall pass when you write bad stuff, because I know you have a boss. And, some people have no bosses. And when there's no boss, it's the wild, wild west. So.
Anything else on recruiting, or we can move on?
One more here.
Wanted to ask about Foster. How active was his dad in the recruiting process? I guess, how did his recruitment with you start?
His mom and dad, a little bit like Jaron Jackson's, like Miles. I've been pretty fortunate lately when I look at it. Xavier's active, but not active like, he knew it. He recruited for 15 years. He was in the NBA for 15, 16 years. But he was about as humble and appreciative, never acted in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I love the way his dad handled it. He was involved. I'm sure he knew what was going on. I'm sure he did his homework. But he never acted that way. And it was a treat. I got a chance to recruit Foster, but his mom and dad were involved. But I didn't see them in the middle asking for 9,000 people's opinions and things like that. It was really, really good.
Could you talk a little bit more about Aaron Henry and what you saw about him as the process went along? Was there an aha moment?
Yeah,
Gradual?
we saw Aaron Henry as a sophomore, and we kind of questioned it. Dane saw him then, I think DJ saw him, and we questioned it. And then his junior year, that summer, we saw him a little bit more. And to be honest with you, we talked to Gary Harris a lot. He's from the same area as Gary, actually played on his AAU team. And Gary told us a lot of things about the kid that, we didn't know. How hard he works, what potential he thought he had, and things like that. He knew the kid. And so it got us re-engaged. And when we re-engaged, we started seeing more and more things we liked. And then we started seeing a few things we really liked. And as we got to know the kid and the parents, it took us to another level, and we were in on another kid or two at the same position, and we just pulled the plug and went with him, and we thought it was a good move for us. What I like about all these guys is all of them have played well and helped their teams win. And you look at Foster and what he's done there, it's unbelievable. But Kithier too at Dakota, what he did there, and then you look at Aaron. I mean, you win a state championship in Indiana at Ben Davis, one of the largest schools in the state of Indiana. It's pretty impressive. So I really have a feeling that it was a good move on our part, and hopefully for him. All right, so, when the start of the season comes, it's always exciting, but it's a little bit, it makes you nervous about where you are and what you are, and we've had the exhibition games, and I think we've done a good job in our exhibition games of playing against three completely different kinds of teams. As I said, the Ferris team that drove us to death, the team at Georgia that pounded the ball inside and did so many things in there, and the team, of course, in Hillsdale was a team that, I must have offended them, huh? A team that cutting, slashing, slipping, doing all these things, and yet maybe none of them were a great three-point shooting team. So who do we open with? We open with maybe a team that could shoot 25, 28 threes in this game. A well-coached team. It's a team that plays in the Atlantic Sun, a pretty good conference. It's been one of the better teams in that conference, picked by some to win it. They're in the same league with Florida Gulf Coast. As we know, they're a very good team. I know our players are ready to go and they're excited, but I also know that the chore is this is a team that has, I think, at least 3 major transfers coming in. So it's hard to tell exactly what you're going to get. Their top player is a kid named MSU, not as good with his first name, Wasid, I guess it is. Last year, freshman of the year, preseason defensive player of the year. When you watch them on tape, last year they shot 25 threes a game. This year, just in watching them in a scrimmage, I think they're going to shoot more. They've got at least 4 guys that can shoot it a lot. Not real big in size, but I think a team that, concerns me, because anytime a team can shoot threes, it's concerning to me. I mean, that's how most upsets happen, as we remember back and learn from the Middle Tennessee game. So, is there any questions on this? Otherwise, I'll continue. Well, I told you guys that, if we ever decided to do anything with the social injustices of our country that are going on, we would do it as a team. And I told you I would talk to you. And I think some of the mistakes that I've seen being made are people do things without explaining what they're doing. So we're not doing anything earth-shattering, but it is important to the people to understand our motivation and what we're doing. We've had a lot of discussion in this room, 2-3 serious meetings with our team this fall as we saw what was going on around our country. We opened up to each other about the different backgrounds, different experiences. We've got a lot of different things to cover on a team, not only from what country you are, what religion you are, what race you are. And understanding that someone's past experiences usually shape their view of the current events. I look at where I came from and how I felt and how little educated I was on some things. It just made me continue to think. The one thing that we all agreed on is that there are social injustices, every kid on our team. And there's so much divisiveness in our country that our players wanted to do something, but they didn't want to do anything to maybe offend or anything else. So too many people, we felt that there were too many people talking and not enough people listening. Everybody has their own opinion on things. Everybody talks about things, and not a lot gets done. As a team, we realized that we have a platform that are, to make our world a better place, at least to start conversation locally. I was very impressed with different people I researched, and I think it was Steph Curry talked about starting in the grassroots and getting your communities, your young kids to understand maybe some of these social injustices. So we also understood that doing nothing, doesn't help. And so we decided to wear a t-shirt. And we're going to wear a t-shirt, and this is going to there's going to be parts to this. The first one is we talk and we listen. And it's we talk because we had conversation. But everybody got to listen. They got to listen to Ben about his religion. They got to listen to, some guys about, where they grew up. They got to listen to me, tell my stories of meeting Mike Garland and what it did to my life. So we said, we got to talk about it, but everybody says you got to talk about something. Not many people listen. In my summer camp, I have something that I say, learn to listen, listen to learn. And I felt like there's not a lot of listening going on. So we found that conversation, the art of talking, more importantly listening, was a powerful tool in this room that you're sitting in. Our hope is that our t-shirts might inspire others to have conversations about things. In the same way, we are a stronger team when we talk together, when we work together. We believe our country can be a better place if we do the same. Not everything, can be viewed in absolutes. Some of my favorite topics coming up. There's a spectrum of beliefs that are influenced by our experiences and our backgrounds. Unfortunately, so much of today's dialogue is influenced by Twitter. This is a conversation that can't be had in 140 characters. And I am gotten so smart on Twitter that I realized they just changed it to 280 characters. But yeah, you're like me, Freddie, that flip phone and me, yeah. We're getting positive here. We're getting 280 times they can say something that's crazy. But this can't be talked about in characters. It's got to be talked about deeper. This is just the first step. We kind of are going to look at some things that we want to do, and maybe there'll be a different shirt. Maybe there's going to be different things. It's not going to be something that we're going to tax our kids with. It's their way of being able to stay humble, but try to make a difference. It's part of the education process, and really that's why we're in school, to educate kids. Together as a team, as Spartans, we can strive to be a part of a positive change. Not trying to capture the moment, we're trying to create a movement. And that is a major statement, This isn't for show. This isn't make anybody feel good. It's not to make anybody feel bad. It's to figure out that we need to capture a moment and get people to converse, to create a movement. Like our mission statement that my AD so strongly believes in, we gather and engage. And when he talks about gathering and engaging, you do that with conversation. And I've found in my career that there's a lot of things we don't converse about if they're a little bit delicate issues. We don't talk about them. It doesn't hurt to talk about them. Important to note that this is not a protest. Not going to be. During the anthem, we plan on doing what we always do, standing with our hand over our heart. Our administration is also looking into ways to honor the men and women that keep us safe and protect our freedom. We're going to try to do more for all people. So in closing, so nobody gets this wrong in your Twitter era, to talk, to listen, to have conversation about issues that affect us all. And we want to be somewhat part of, hopefully, a movement that improves all of us. And I've done a lot of great things at this school, been a part of a lot of great things. Sitting in this room right here, 2 or 3 different occasions in meeting, was almost more powerful to me, listening to kids talk, and you'd be surprised. It's not all one-dimensional. These kids, everybody has a different opinion. And when we started listening to each other and saw different kids have different opinions and different ideas, it was awesome. So I told you I'd tell you, last time I said it, there were people that got upset. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? We're not doing anything. We're going to do something that we do as a team. You know, with our team, we try to get everybody together, and together teams win. You're following a football team. I don't think anybody would disagree. It's more together this year, and we're winning. You know, why not our university? Why not our community? Why not our state? Why not our country? Why not our world? And so I hope you understand the reasoning. I hope that if you have any questions, I'll answer them real quick. And we'll finally get you out of here so you can enjoy
Just
the
to
day.
clarify, the T-shirts will be worn for warm-ups?
Yeah, it'll be worn for warm-ups. And I guess the one part I didn't really say, I kind of said it, but this will not be necessarily a one-time thing or even a two-time or three-time. We're looking at how we can progress into the education process. And this is a process. It's not going to change anything overnight. We're not trying to make some bold statement. We're trying to get more people to join in and see that when you converse, when you talk about it, so that we talk, we listen. Sounds a little crazy, but it's kind of really important to our players and to us that we're going to talk about the things we're not going to hide behind, but we're going to listen to what other people have to say, not just what our own opinion is, because we haven't been through all these things, each one of us. You know, Mike Garland didn't live in Iron Mountain, Michigan, and Tom Izzo didn't live in Ypsilanti, Michigan. So it's nice when people tell you what it's like other places and you learn, and then you figure out, and what usually happens is we're all in it for the same reason. So,
Do you know what they'll say?
do I know
The
what?
T-shirts.
Yeah, it's going to say, we talk, we listen,
Okay.
and then our logo of our inspirational statement on the back that Miles brought to the table. So it's going to be all about, it's not about me, it's all about us. And us is everybody that's in that arena, and for me, 500,000 living alums, and hopefully it gets bigger.
Just kind of a two-part question with that. First of all, I'm sure people are going to ask right away if those are going to be sold or if the money will go to charity or how you will approach that.
You know, that's the funny part. We didn't even think about it, because this isn't about, the last thing this is about is making money. That is the very last thing on the planet that this is for. And maybe that's the beauty of it, and that's why it was so simple. We talk, we listen, you know. It's self-explanatory if you see it. And so the only reason for it, and it might grow. It might grow to the zone. It might grow to the entire arena. You know, we felt like saying nothing was not right, because we all agreed there are social injustices. We thought making certain things too big of a deal, we got a job to do. And our job to do is to win basketball games. And if somehow we can bring the two together, man, we've accomplished a lot.
And the second part with that is, I guess, what was the genesis of those conversations? Did that start from you? Did that start from the guys? Was it just talking and listening to each other to say, hey, we need to figure this out?
You know, it's funny. It started from a white Youper that's married to a Hispanic woman. And I called the meeting. And I just said, you know what? How many agree that there's social injustices in our country right now? The divisiveness that's going on. 15 guys and 4 coaches raised their hand. And I just said, well, we're going to talk about it. And you're going to talk. And it went real slow the first time, you know, partly because not everybody understands what's going on. Everybody hasn't been through it. You know, some guys that have been through it more than others have a greater appreciation for it. And everybody hasn't been through the same issues. But we're teammates. We care about it. So if it's only one guy that went through something that was really bad, you know, we got to care for him. And I think that's where it grew. The second meeting, a little more talking. Then we had some individual meetings where I had a meeting with guys. And David Thomas had a meeting with Mike Garland, Dwayne Stevens, Dane Fife. Everybody met with different guys. So we just kind of grew this over the last month as we saw what was going on. Didn't make it a distraction of what we were doing. We just tried to get a feel on how we could help, because what happens is maybe some kid has really been hit by it, or maybe his parents have. And maybe that's bothering them. And we just wanted to get everything out in the open. And to me, it was like winning a championship. Just talking about it helped. It helped me understand them. It made, it's not even race sometimes. It's not even religion sometimes. Sometimes it's age, a 20-year-old and a 60-year-old, You got a lot of things to talk about in that space. But the biggest thing, guys, is, I've been a guy that, to me, we're all Americans. And before I die, that's the way I hope it is.
Just to address, anyone who might take issue with this
Yeah.
or think that something like this should be completely separate from sports, what would just be your response to maybe that prevailing thought that some people would have?
I hope my kids are involved in it. They're not in sports. I just think that we do have a platform, and I don't want to make the platform that we're protesting everything and we're doing this or everything. We have a platform. We're involved in education. And I don't think enough people understand and are educated enough. I mean, guilty. I'm the leader. You guys all know where I'm from. Not a lot of diversity where I'm from. It's not my fault. But, Mike helped me understand what was going on and different races and different creeds. And then I had, I got my guys on my team that have been from different countries. I have guys on my team, different religions. I don't understand them all, but as I talk, I not only find out I get more educated, but it doesn't separate us as much as I thought it would. It kind of brings us all closer together because we have a better understanding of each other. And we're so built, it seems like today, where we want to always say the politically correct thing. And so what happens is nobody says anything. I'm not making any life statement here. I'm going to say this, that there's a lot of different races that have helped me become successful. A lot of different people that have helped me become successful. I think I've helped some of those different people become successful. At the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? If we can do that as a team, why don't we do that as a school? Why don't we do it as a community? Why don't we keep growing it? And instead of all the things that are going on that, quite frankly, I'm sick of. If that's a harsh statement, that's me personally. Then pin that on me, not any players. But I like what we're doing. I like the direction. I like what they came up with. I appreciate my coaching staff. This was about a 22-man decision, and we didn't spend a zillion hours on it. We just talked about, can we do something that would help our fans appreciate what our team appreciates. I can't have a meeting in here with 2,000, 4,000 Izzo members. Can't have a meeting in here with 15,000 people. I can't have a meeting in here with 500,000 living alums, and then it grows. But if I can be a part of helping that grow, I've done a lot more than winning a national championship. And if I can work on doing both, wow, that'd be special. So I appreciate it. I just want to make sure you understand. I told you I'd tell you. I think some people have done things without explaining them, and I think that leaves it up to the Twitter world to decide what they want to pick and choose. There's no money in this. There's no advertising in this. There's no Tom's a good guy, a bad guy. There's no the players are. It's kind of just doing. Does anybody in here disagree that we all should be on the same page? So if you don't, this is simple. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate the support you give us. And hopefully we're going to give you a fun season. And starting out Friday will not be, I don't think, an easy game. I think it'll be another game that brings something different. It'll be 4 games with 4 different style offenses. And this one, that ball could be flying from all ways. We do have to get better. I should talk about this for a second. We haven't shot the ball real well. I don't know why. We've been shooting it well all year. We, as a coaching staff, have to do a better job substituting people. It's been a little bit challenging because certain guys can only play a certain amount of minutes so far. Just about everybody except Ben is clear to go now. And Ben is pretty clear to go. They didn't want to do a lot in the exhibition. They wanted to get his confidence and make him understand that he's okay. You know, when you have a major injury like that, some of it is how confident you are coming back. And yet we got to learn to sub our people a little bit better. We can't have Miles playing 16 straight minutes or something like that. So that's going to fall on me. So we got a lot of work to do, and that's why you have a preseason, and that's why exhibition. That's why you have a preseason. That's the part coming up. And then we do have a Big Ten season that kind of is interrupting the preseason a little bit this year, and that'll be something new for us to deal with. But I think exciting. You know, we plan on playing a good game Friday, getting up Saturday morning early and watching the film, practicing early, then going somewhere together, maybe Miles, and cheering on our football team because they've been an inspiration to me and to us. And then get ready for a little game on Tuesday. All right? Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. See ya.